Well, I grew up in a small town in Ohio near Youngstown called Columbiana. It was a dry town, very conservative. I was dragged to charismatic Christian revival tents a lot when I was around 14 or 15. And some of you heard about my brother John passing, and he was my mentor. And John went to Yale, and he was, when he came back from Yale, he brought back a book when I was 15 years of age, and it was called Altered States of Consciousness by Charles Tart in 1970. And my best friend, Ryan Snyder, I grew up with him, and we hung out together all the time. And I was just mesmerized by my brother John's experiences in Mexico and Colombia, eating magic mushrooms, and I was a younger brother, all too eager to emulate my older brother. And he lent me this book. And so I had this book, Altered States of Consciousness, and I'm sharing it with my friend Ryan Snyder. And Ryan goes, well, I want to borrow this book. And I said, sure, Ryan, but give it back to me in a week, So that was okay. So a week passes, and I go, Ryan, it's been a week, give me back my book. And he kind of hemmed and hawed and wouldn't return the book. And so I waited a while longer, and I kept on asking him, and he kept on avoiding the question. And finally, I said, I want that book back. I'll come down to your house and get it. And he goes, I'm sorry, Paul, I can't give it back to you. And I said, why? He said, my father found it and burned it. I said, your father burned my book? It was given to me by my brother in trust. I'm in the middle of this. And and it really upset me. But then I began to think, wow, the information in that book was so powerful. It made somebody burn the book because they had the fear of this knowledge. So I thought, wow, this is the forbidden fruit. And and these charismatic Christians are just really not in the same realm that I want to be in, right? So my brother John, that realm was much more interesting to me. So this really influenced me in a huge way. I never got the book back, by the way. And Ryan Snyder's father was convinced, I was from Satan and corrupting his son. Anyhow, so I didn't have a magic mushroom experience until I went to Kenyon College in Ohio when I was around 19 years of age. And I was really eager to get some magic mushrooms, so I bought some, and I got a bag of mushrooms for like 20 bucks, and I thought, okay, it's reasonable. But nobody else would, I didn't know who else to eat them with. So late in the spring, early summer, I decided that, set and setting's important. I read about that. Andrew Weil had a chapter in the book and a whole bunch of other people. And so I decided, I'll walk about 2 miles to this really, really beautiful rolling green hill countryside with these beautiful oak trees. And so I thought, okay, I might as well eat the mushrooms. And I thought the bag was like 1 dose, So, I figured, okay, they said about half an hour before it can come on. So about halfway through the walk, I started eating the mushrooms. And then I'm eating the mushrooms, and I'm in love with climbing trees ever since I was a kid, And there's this huge oak tree on the very top of this hill. So I'm eating the mushrooms, I see this oak tree, it's just perfect for climbing. And a storm was coming. I could hear thunder and lightning on the horizon. So the tree is the very top of the highest hill, and I thought it'd be a great viewscape. So I consumed the entire bag of mushrooms, and I climbed to the top of the tree, so I have a really good visual. And then this visual was, those of you in the Midwest in the summer, with this boiling black clouds with lightning strikes, And then I started having, suddenly the air became a liquid. I went, whoa, this is what I read about, look at this, And then the storm front's coming at me, and then fractal patterns, waves. Well, whoa, this is really interesting, But the experience didn't slow down. It kept on getting more and more intense. And I'm at the top of this tree, and I started getting vertigo. And the storm and the lightning is coming, and this frontal hot wind precedes the clouds, before the rain comes. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm getting vertigo. I am in the most dangerous place that you can be during a lightning storm at the top of this hill. And so I held on to the tree for sustenance, because it anchored me. And then holding on to the tree, I went through the tree into the roots and had this feeling that you spoke so eloquently of oneness with the planet. And what you have not mentioned is I had a congenital stuttering habit. I went through 6 years of speech therapy. I stuttered all my life like this. And I couldn't speak. Now, the stutterers like myself, we can speak without stuttering to animals. And we can sing. But we come to people, we can't speak without stuttering. So I went through 6 years of speech therapy. In the 3rd and 4th grade, they pulled a meeting with the school officials to put me in special education. It was that severe. My family was very, very concerned. But I scored really high on all my tests. So they realized that my speech impediment was not because I wasn't smart, it's just this societal thing. So I'm up in this tree, and the winds and the waves and the lightning, and I'm just like closing my eyes, and I open up, and the intensity was so much. But I thought, this is where I'm going to die. This is a good place to die. I'm rooted literally to the earth. And then I'm up there for hours, and I thought my biggest issue is I can't speak. I have the hardest time, and so I couldn't date ladies because they wanted to be with the macho, self-assured, male personalities, and I was a person who didn't have those attributes. So I wouldn't stare people in the eyes. I'd always avert my gaze and look on the ground. That's why I found mushrooms. So I'm tripping my brains out on my first trip and saying that nothing that I read even comes close to this. And then I said to myself, what is my big issue in life? And I said, stuttering. And so I said to myself, stop stuttering now. Stop stuttering now. That was my mantra. And I said it hundreds, maybe thousands of times. At that edge and the precipitous of being electrocuted from a lightning strike, from overdosing from mushrooms, but the tree was so important to me. It literally rooted me to the earth. And the storm passed. Fortunately, I did not get hit by lightning. I came down off the tree and literally came down as I walked back. And I went to my room and I went to bed. And then I woke up the next morning. I didn't see anybody. And there's this one lady that really liked me. I think she was maybe sympathy love or generosity. I'm not sure what it was. But I came out of my room and I'm walking down the sidewalk, and then here she comes. I go, oh no. And I always like, hi, and look down on the ground, didn't want to say anything else but one syllable, because I could usually get that out. And she came up to me and she said, good morning, Paul. And for the first time, I looked at her straight in the eyes, and she asked me, how are you doing today? And I said, I'm doing great. And I stopped stuttering, and one day. Now, a short caveat, I still do stutter. Like when I met Bill Gates and Al Gore, I'm starstruck, so I will stutter. If someone throws a microphone in front of me and I've been drinking, smoking some herb, and they ask me, how do you grow mushrooms? I'm going, like filling a well with a teaspoon. Where do I start? So there are times that I do get when I get nervous and whatnot, but I would say it's 99% cured from one psilocybin experience. And I think I basically, from a physiological, neurological point of view, I was able to reestablish a different neural network. And I've been told by some scientists who study this that with some type of stutterers in the 6th to 7th month in the womb, when my mother was pregnant, a nerve did not develop properly. And so us stutterers, what oftentimes happens is that we'll try to change a word up really fast, and we'll try to trick our brain. So if you see a stutterer and they pause, they're actually trying to get away from the word that's hanging them up, and they try to find an alternative word to go around it. Or they're trying to change the subject in their mind, because stutterers tend to be really high intelligence, and oftentimes their thought stream is several sentences further ahead than their mouth is speaking. So that's what really told me that mushrooms were my sacrament. They were the crack in my cosmic egg that really made a huge difference to me. And I just want to add one little short event. So my wife Dusty knows this story and she loves it. And so we went to Crater Lake Lodge in Oregon, and we're at the lodge and we're having lunch. And this busboy comes up, and he's about 16 years of age or 17, and he goes, don't interrupt a stutterer. Just smile, be at peace with it. And he finally goes, can I help you? I went, wow, that's exactly the way I stuttered. And so I told him, I stuttered exactly like you. Now this I could tell from the cultural imprint of who this young man was, that he came from a very conservative, probably Christian family, just like I did. And I said, I used to stutter just like you. And he goes, this is actually getting real for me. You did. And I go, yeah. And I was able to cure it in one day. And he goes, well, what did you do? So I told him this whole story. His eyes got really wide. My wife was like ready to have a heart attack. I was like, oh my God. And he walked away, but I felt like, yeah, that was right on,